But the centerpiece of this is that we are summarizing the core ideas that were covered in semester 1. So if someone were to stop you and say, I hear you're doing this quantum mindset thing, what is it all about and what have you learned so far? This is our cheat sheet for advancing into that space. First off, I think you'd have to look them in the eyes and admit to them that, well, the centerpiece of it all, perhaps, is that you have to know who you are. And so we spent a fair bit of time hammering in this idea that any attempts at strategy and intelligence has to come after self-awareness. So it all starts with that good, whole, hard look into the mirror, which can be facilitated through peers, coaches, friends, yourself. And then once you have a better feel for your needs and behaviors and how you're different than other people, well, obviously then your strategies become different than other people as well. The second piece, and John was mentioning this because this was a very impactful piece with the kids as well on Monday night, this idea of the lighthouse, or something about the future and the optimism of the future. The idea that the lighthouse will guide our intention. In your calls with me this week, we're going to be wrestling with a core idea called the well-formed outcome. And our intention by introducing this self-knowledge and the lighthouse experiments was that so by the end of our first semester, we would have a very well-formed outcome. And that well-formed outcome speaks to the idea that your intentionality is clear. If I were to ask you, hey, so where are we going with all of this? What's the belief system that's guiding your actions? What I will statements are you using lately? The answer would lie in this well-formed outcome. You have a very clear reflective practice that's telling you where you're headed and how you're going to get there. What are the roadblocks? What are the interferences? What are your solutions to those interferences? All of those pieces come from the magnetism of the lighthouse. If nothing else, if this course can allow you to then firmly plant a lighthouse in the distance, whether that's going to the past or the future, then I think that we've done a great job there. And so the lighthouse guide's intention is a core theme as well. People with great mental games, people with strong resilience, practice delayed gratification on a regular basis. You've seen them on the driving range. You've seen them on the golf course. You've seen them at the gym. You've seen them in your work. These are the people that are able to sustain and endure things that other people don't want to be doing, because they're firm in the knowledge that by doing this dirty work, by doing these things that others don't want to be doing, I am advancing beyond them. And in all of our lighthouse talks and all of our know thyself talks, we kept seeing the values and virtues of competitiveness come up. People who are competitive understand that delayed gratification is a differentiator that separates the champion from the runner-up. This came up a lot with you guys tonight, so I need not speak long about it, but knowing what you can control in some cases, in some of the breakout rooms tonight, this is the foundation for some of you. Literally, you argue that this is it. This is what it's all about. And it is true. And I will frame it this way. I will say that, and again, these are all just summaries. If someone was interviewing me for their podcast about like, what are the core themes in mental game, I would suggest that people with a strong mental game, firstly, know what they can control, and they spend little to no energy on things they can't. The weather, the rain, the conditions of the course, all of that stuff. And this is tough. Trust me, I work with some very, very high level athletes, and I still, after many years of talking about this stuff, hear them talk about things that are out of their control in dismay with hot thoughts. But if the first foundation is that you never ever waste energy on things you can't control, the second foundation, often overlooked, is you have to spend energy on things you can control. The fifth theme that was covered in the opening weeks, this was in week 3, was the introduction of the Timothy Galway formula, which is that if you really want to be great and perform at high levels, all you got to do is take away all the interference. And if you're practicing hot thought logs and exercises like this, you're starting to become more aware of what the interferences are. If you attend an ontology of sport class, then you also start to unpack and deconstruct what these interferences are. Maybe these interferences are coming from a voice from a grade 3 teacher that you have no reason to be listening to anymore. Maybe these hot thoughts are stemming from false belief systems of what you think the game of golf is supposed to be, because I thought everyone always made all their 6-footers. Once you start realizing and deconstructing these interferences, then you have a real opportunity as a player to be able to see things for as they really are, or as they should be seen by you at least. and that becomes a big piece. So reducing interference, and also in that week, we also talked a little bit about the idea of embracing interference. And this was going along more with the Marcus Aurelius idea, the idea that the obstacle is the way, and that interference is inevitable. You will absolutely, without question, be faced with many roadblocks on your journey to your lighthouse. And so the acceptance of that, rather than the dismay when they creep up, and instead being able to pivot and leverage those into opportunities for growth, was a big piece of this whole reducing interference to discover potential. Decent segue into the idea of be philosophical. I need not say too much there just because of our hangover from last week and so on, but the idea there is to have a piercing, inquisitive mindset that challenges belief systems and asks the question very often of, what must I believe to be true for me to believe that? And if you're constantly putting yourself up against that razor, then you will see that the essence of things will start to uncover itself as you shave off all the fat around of all of our belief systems and ideas. The 7th of 8th, we're almost near the final stretch here, was the idea, this is going back into the first week actually, but this you'll see in the literature all across sports psychology books, all across the Hall of Fame speeches, values-directed behavior as a cornerstone to a strong mental game. The strong mental athlete is not so interested in the extrinsic pleasures and spoils of war. Rather, they are constantly seeking to fulfill intrinsic values-directed behavior.